Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Just a heads up for tomorrow, we're going to have Tony Meggs, who's the president and CEO of Metashare. His organization's got a longer name, but everybody knows it by Metashare. This is one of those Christian health-sharing ministries that Twyla Braves was talking about in the last segment that provide a legal alternative completely around Obamacare. If you go with one of these Christian health-sharing ministries, you are outside the Obamacare thicket altogether. So Tony Meggs of Metashare will be on tomorrow to talk about all that. One last thing, and then we'll go to the phones, 888-589-8840. You know, there's been a string of losses for natural marriage over the last couple of years. We had 4 or 5 this year. Illinois just legitimized same-sex marriage this week. Let's see, we've also had some setbacks in Rhode Island, Delaware, Minnesota, Hawaii this past year. Now, so there's 16 states now that legalize same-sex marriage. Here is the good news. Their run is probably over. Now, they've been trying to cultivate this narrative that it's inevitable, that it's just inevitable that one state after another is going to succumb. They're going to fall like dominoes. Everybody's going to be adopting same-sex marriage. And Cheryl Vetstein from the New York Times, or Washington Times rather, has a piece today talking about the fact that the low-hanging fruit now has all been picked, that there are no additional state legislatures now that are possible targets that has a government wholly dominated by Democrats. So none of the other states, none of the other 34 states, I mean, they have laws, they have constitutional amendments that protect marriage and define it as the institution of one man and one woman. None of those, Cheryl Vetstein says, not one of them has a legislature that's dominated by the Democrats with a Democratic governor. So what that means is this run that same-sex marriage, that sodomy-based marriage has had, that run is probably over. I mean, they're still going to be fighting in a few states, but we're probably going to be settling into this a kind of stasis where you have 34 states that protect marriage as a union of one man and one woman, 16 states that recognize sodomy-based marriage, and then we'll see how that logjam gets broken. That cannot exist forever. As Abraham Lincoln said about the Union, we cannot exist half slave and half free. So we cannot continue to exist half gay and half straight. That logjam is going to have to be broken. But the point is that run of inevitability that you've heard, and this sense that maybe you've had, this tsunami is bearing down on us, it's sweeping everything before its path. There's no longer any inevitability whatsoever. Their run has probably come to an end. All the low-hanging fruit has been picked. They've run out of easy targets. That narrative of inevitability is a false narrative, and it has ended now in the state of Illinois. So that is good news. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Mike in Richmond, Virginia. Mike, thanks for calling, and thank you for waiting. What's on your mind?
Hey, appreciate you taking my call. I'm trying
Yes,
to listen
sir.
to you every day.
Thank you.
I've been listening to you all week about this Obamacare.
Yes, sir.
And this president we have. Well, the thing about it, the people have nobody to blame but themselves. The ones that voted for him and put him in office, they are the ones that need to stop and think and say, well, I voted for this guy. This president has done nothing good. He said he got bin Laden. That was one of the biggest things. The thing that I saw about him, he was sitting he was sitting in the chair watching it on the screen. The armed forces, the people behind the scenes are the one got Obama.
Yeah.
He's done nothing but tell lies. And
you look at that picture, Mike, and by the way, a lot of more Democrats than maybe you realize have now become thoroughly disenchanted with Barack Obama. I mean, a lot of them. I don't have polling data right in front of me, but I'm looking at a story from the London Telegraph here by Niall Gardner, and he's talking about a poll that came out today, Washington Post and ABC News, and said, look, this polling data is disastrous, devastating is his word, for the White House, because President Obama is now at the lowest approval point in his entire presidency, and he's upside down on Obamacare. Disapproval of Obamacare is now up to 57%. Approval for Obama is down to 31%. There are only 7% of Democrats that don't want Obamacare repealed. So, and I don't know if you were listening, Mike, earlier this week, I played the sound bites from the black students at Bowie State, I don't know how you say it, which I think is in Maryland. And they had affordable health care before Obamacare came along, and now the universities had to jack up the price of health insurance so much they can't afford it. There's no way they can do it. And they're expressing profound disappointment in Barack Obama. I mean, they were accusing him of lining the white man's pockets instead of doing something for the black students at Bowie State. So there's there's more disaffection, Mike, out there for the president right now than maybe we realize.
Well, what they need to do, they need to get a group together, whether it be the Tea Party, the Republicans, between the two, they've got the money. They need to hire a lawyer, a team that will investigate all the things that he has done wrong, and they need to impeach him. They need to get rid of him and try to find somebody else. I don't know who, but Joe Biden, he's not the deal. Hillary Clinton, we know what she did with Benghazi, so the country has nobody to blame but themselves for voting him in. I'll hang up. Enjoy talking to you, and I'm continue to listen to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. And by the way, speaking of Joe Biden, I don't know if you saw this, but there's two different guys around the country now that are using the Joe Biden defense. They had intruders trying to break into their homes. One guy, to protect his family, did exactly what Joe Biden said. He went outside and fired off a shotgun to scare the people away. He's been charged in court. This is in Washington. He said, I'm just doing what Joe Biden told me to do. Remember, Joe Biden says, look, that's what you do. Don't get a gun. Don't get a handgun. Get a shotgun. And you hear somebody poking around your door, just go out on the back porch and fire off a round into the air, and that'll spook them. Well, the guy did it. Now he's in trouble. He's going to be on trial. Another guy, this is a tragic story, but there was a woman who was driving drunk. She was a young woman. She crashed her car early in the morning. This is 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. She kind of staggers around the neighborhood. About 2 o'clock in the morning, she tries to break into this guy's house. And as far as he knows, that's somebody trying to break into his house and rob him. And he heard what Joe Biden said, hey, take a shotgun and fire it through the door. That'll stop him. You don't need a handgun. Just take your shotgun and fire it through the door. Well, he fired through the door, and it was a young woman that had staggered up to his front porch and didn't know where she was, drunk out of her mind, and she was killed by the shotgun blast. And so his defense is exactly the same. Hey, I was just doing what the vice president advised me to do. If you're looking for somebody to blame, it's a tragic death, but if you're looking for somebody to blame, blame Joe Biden. This whole thing was his idea. All right, Mike, listen, I appreciate the call. Let us go. 888-589-8840, by the way, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Jack in Conroe, Texas. Jack, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian Fisher, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
As my youngest calls you Brian Fish Stick. My 3-year-old calls you Brian Fish Stick. That's your new name in our family.
All right.
I wanted to pick your brain about a thought I had this morning listening to Shandy's program. They were discussing the whole concept of getting the taxpayers getting the Alliance Defending Freedom and organizations like that help out with representing these schools that are cowing to the threats from these humanist groups and these atheist groups that are threatening a lawsuit. For example, that one that decided it's not going to, a charter school that decided that they're not going to support Operation Christmas Child because they got a letter from a humanist group, which is amazing because if you worship humanity, you should applaud the act that Franklin Graham's group does. But anyway, my question was, wouldn't it be so simple if these guys, instead of cowing and giving in under threat of a lawsuit, wouldn't it be so simple as just getting them to going and getting the free aid of organizations like Alliance Defending Freedom, and then saying, come on, bring it on, and let those guys keep having to spend their money to take these things to court, and eventually they run out of money, and they will eventually stop firing off these false threats because they're spending money, and the schools aren't. These are free organizations.
Yeah.
Is there something I'm missing? Or
I'm with you. I'm with you, Jack, and I appreciate the call. Thank you for that. It's a great suggestion, and if you're involved in some kind of school district where an issue like this comes up on your watch, you're a patron, you're a parent, you're a teacher, you're an administrator, you're a board member, and one of these threats to religious liberty comes up, Jack's point is there are organizations like Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF, or Liberty Institute down in Texas, Liberty Council in Florida with Matt Staver, and they will represent your religious liberty interests pro bono. In other words, they're supported by good-hearted Christians like you and me. They support them so that they, in turn, can defend religious liberty. So they will do it at no cost to a school district. Now, a lot of times school districts will have attorneys, and we've run into this before. We had a situation that came up here in our home state several years ago where there was a lesbian student who wanted to bring her date to the senior prom. And the school said no, and she filed a lawsuit against them. And so they caved. They capitulated and said, okay, well, you can come. Just because they were afraid of the legal. And we actually talked to that school district and tried to persuade them. We had help lined up. We had legal help lined up available for them to represent their interests and protect natural, traditional values in that situation. And they wouldn't do it. They were too spooked. They had an attorney there that said, look, we don't need the help. We can deal with this. But these attorneys realize, these attorneys that serve school boards, this is not a knock on them, but they don't have any experience whatsoever in First Amendment litigation. They don't know anything about it. They have no idea what the precedents are. They have no idea how courts have ruled in the past. They don't know anything about that. And so a lot of them, they just have bought the myth about the separation of church and state. You can't even mention God. That's a violation of the Constitution, and of course it's not. But they don't know any better because they're not trained on First Amendment law. And so sometimes you can do your best effort to try to encourage one of these school districts to fight and receive the free legal help, and they still won't do it. But that help is available. And by the way, on the religious liberty front, we told you the other day, earlier this week, that Costco was selling Bibles with stickers that mark the Bible as a book of fiction. Well, they got called on that. And they have now apologized. They have relabeled all of their Bibles. I don't know what label they put on them, but they are no longer labeling the Bible as fiction. They have apologized. We greatly apologize for the error, and they have corrected the mistake. So good for Costco. Focal Point, AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. Be right back.